Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending upon where you live around the world. I'm going to start with a statement. I'm conflicted. I'm conflicted with the choice of, do I just condense what I have learnt to a few succinct videos, or do I make everyone suffer? I'm leaning to the latter. Not out of some sadistic sort of pleasure I gain from that, but with the idea that if you can see the problems I'm having, you may then sidestep them yourself. If I only give you the conclusions, it's more like the fish or the fishing rod for the person that's starving. If you understand the process and the problems I've encountered or had to work through, then when you come to do whatever project you decide to go and do, you can perhaps relate to what I'm having to consider. Here we have got the angled hubs. In this case, it's at the apex of the opening, and I've created the surfaces and extended them and shrunk them and done what I think is a reasonable approximation of what I want. And then I came to the point where I've reinstalled it back into location on the hubs, and you get the choice. Do you set it to the highest most hub, which is this, happens to be this blue one, because when we have the hubs, the struts coming at the hub at different angles, there will be, by necessity, a point where the surfaces are at effectively different heights to each other because of the angles. If we ran center lines through the middle of the strut along this axis here and here, they would all come to a common point. Now this is the hub at the moment has been lifted up and moved and fudged because of that, but well, let's just do it. So we come and we put our intersections. See if I can get the intersection there. Not working. I'll just go 25 millimeters. Same here. You can see that they all come. Well, they should, because I must have moved something or the way I've generated my line. Oh, yes, of course, that one won't work, will it, David? Okay, delete that. A new guideline, 25 millimeters. They all come to a common. Whoop, you don't like that zoom in and out, do you? But they all come to a common point. That's the surface. But when you draw down and make a common level from one surface, which is this blue one, as I was mentioning it because it's the highest one, the other surfaces will be at different heights, which you can't have when you're manufacturing your hub. All your surfaces stepping up and down, it would be like a sawtooth. They're not good. So I lifted up each surface on each strut to a common level. You can't have the surfaces tilted either, thinking that you might get away with that. You can't do that because, again, all the geometry goes to hell in a handbasket. So this is the best example at present with the hub at the surface here of the blue strut. But of course it's awfully rough, and aesthetically that's not pleasing at all. The question then is, do we drop it down? Now in this case it's approximately, if I just give about 8 millimeters. Now that's acceptable in my mind, well it has to be, but if I move this down, oops, I'll just redo that. I'll put a guide along there because when we move, we really have to have something along which we can move so that SketchUp can relate. If I move down, now I've locked it in, I'm pushing the shift key here, but if I move it down, say 8 millimeters. Oops, let's just 8. Hasn't moved. Let's try that again. 8. It's taken it down roughly to this surface, but we'll wind up with the strut sticking above the hub. Now, is that a reasonable compromise? I think it is. It's what's necessary. That's a happy compromise. Aesthetically, it may not be pleasing, and that is something that we are dealing with. Is not just the physical reality of creating these hubs, but what they look like in the different positions. Now, that's not as pleasing. When I look at photos, they don't look like they've done this, and I'm wondering whether in previous video I touched on it, whether they lift and lower the hubs, the struts to the hub surfaces. It's only going to be a slight movement. As we know, we only moved that down 8 millimeters. So could we move this down, this strut down 8 millimeters? This one, whatever the difference would be, which wouldn't be as much, of course. It'd be approximately 5 millimeters, and make the aesthetics override the actual structural geometry, the perfect geometry. Now, that's a question that I'm going to pose for the next video, because we will look at this hub and this hub and make a determination for us to go forward. Hence why, warts and all, you get to see my process. It may not directly benefit you, and you'll be thinking, well, just give me the condensed version, David. Well, that will come, but knowing the process, when you go to do something of a similar ilk, you'll be able to take into consideration these points. You won't be blindsided by them and be left wanting. You've at least seen that someone else has gone through the pain of doing a similar process. So that's it for now. Very short, abrupt. I'll be back with the next video, and we'll go on from there. Rightio, bye.